You remember being on the phone?
Every year on their birthdays, Bethany Fraser's boys looked forward to a special phone call.
For your birthday.
One that would often have her running to pick it up.
You know, of course, when I hear it, I'm like, kids, daddy! And we're running down the stairs and we're grabbing the phone.
The voice on the other end belonged to their father, Quincy Fraser, calling from a Maryland prison where he served time for hitting and killing a man while driving drunk.
How important was it for you to have your kids be able to talk to their father, even though he wasn't here?
Over time, I realized how important it was for kind of everybody to stay connected. Again, for me, is if the kids are my core concern, they needed to know that, hey, I do have a dad, he's not here, he cares about me, what he did has nothing to do with me.
Bethany did everything she could to keep her family connected. Her youngest was just 2 when the accident happened, and she didn't want her son to forget his dad while he paid the price for his crime. What she didn't realize is the price she would pay to keep them in touch.
It was a very expensive phone call.
How much money do you think you spent in total?
I easily could have spent maybe up to $500 a month. The hardest thing is when I knew he was calling and I couldn't afford to get it. Because at the time, I didn't have the extra money to put on the phone.
Bethany isn't alone. There are 2.2 million people in our nation's prisons and jails, all potential customers for the $1.2 billion prison phone industry, an industry many accuse of price gouging and unfairly taking advantage of the ultimate captive market.
Families are just ripped apart by incarceration, and then one of the few ways that they can stay in touch is on the phone.
Peter Wagner is the executive director of Prison Policy Initiative, a criminal justice reform group. Wagner blames a sweetheart relationship between service providers and jails and prisons for the high prices. Calls from prison can reach $1 per minute, compared to one leading provider's rate of 7 cents per minute for a long-distance call on the outside.
We live in a world where communications is now incredibly cheap. I can talk on Skype for free. I have a cell phone with unlimited long distance. But in this one context, it can cost up to $1 a minute to have a simple communication. And that's because this is this one case where the free market is not working.
Telephone companies pay jails and prisons hundreds of millions of dollars in commissions in return for exclusive contracts. Wagner says it's a relationship that drives up the cost of calls.
Commissions. That's a polite word for a kickback. These commissions can be 50%, 70%, 90% of the cost of a call goes back to the facility that gave the contract. And that's wrong, and that's what the FCC needs to fix.
It wasn't until 2013 when the FCC took action, approving a 25-cent per minute cap on out-of-state calls.
Why did it take the FCC so long to do something about this?
It was not a priority at the FCC. I have no other answers. I've searched the archives, I've searched my soul, and I looked and I have no other answer.
Commissioner MIGNON CLYBURN has made it her mission to continue the FCC crackdown. She's fighting to make in-state calls more affordable for families too.
The bulk of the calls, 85% of them, are intrastate. They are made within the borders of each state. We have not tackled those yet, and that is what we're on the cusp of doing, hopefully by the end of this year.
Sheriffs like Virginia's Dana LAWHORNE are also speaking out, defending the commissions they receive.
All that money goes to jail operations.
LAWHORNE says his facility receives $150,000 in commissions each year, which pays for basic inmate services like TVs and microwaves, but also the high cost of monitoring inmate phone calls.
People are known to run, murder for hire cases out of jails, to continue to run drug rings out of jail. So it's not just somebody sitting around just making a telephone call back home to mom. There are people making many calls to many different people, and not always for the right reason.
Reform advocate Peter Wagner says this issue is about more than just dollars and cents. The family ties and emotional bonds kept alive in prison phone calls are key to keeping former inmates on the straight and narrow.
When it's too expensive for people to call home, they don't. And then family ties start to be strained, then it's harder for people when they get back out of prison.
Yo, you ready, Callan?
Lori Jane Gliha, Al Jazeera, Gaithersburg, Maryland.